Welcome back to Beyond the Design, the podcast where we step inside the creative minds shaping today's most iconic interiors. I'm your host, Craig Beaumont Flynn, and today's guest is someone whose work has not only redefined modern luxury, but brought warmth, artistry, and global perspective to every project. I'm thrilled to welcome Andrew Torrey, the founder of Torrey, a New York City-based interior design firm known for crafting elevated personal spaces from Manhattan to Mexico City, London to Lisbon, and everywhere in between. Well, Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So a boy from Dodge City, Kansas.
Yeah.
So you design commissions around the globe. It's a journey worthy of your state's motto. What led you to launch Torrey back in 2013? And what was it like in those early days?
What is the state motto? Is ad astra or ad aspera per astra?
Ad astra per aspera.
Right. To the stars through difficulty. Sorry, and what was your question after that? Sorry.
We're trying to decipher Latin. Yeah. What led you to launch Torrey back in 2013, and what did those early days look for you?
Sure. So, I'd been I moved to New York when I was 21. So in 2013, I was 33, and I had worked in real estate. I'd worked in events and marketing and PR. I'd done a lot of things. And I was in real estate at the time, and I was very lucky. I had some great success there, but none of it was enough to really. When you live in New York, it's such a magical place to live, but it's really hard, and you have to, you have to be here chasing I had to be here chasing a passion, and I felt like with my previous careers, I really was lucky. I had a great life. I was able to do all this stuff, but it wasn't fulfilling enough for me, I guess I would say. And so with design, I'd always loved design. I'd always had an affinity for it. I'd always rearranged my rooms since I was a tiny little kid, 100 times over. So it just was something where I kind of felt like I need to chase my full potential. And I don't think I'm doing that now. So maybe it's in design. And I decided, okay, I'm going to be a designer. And that was kind of it. There was maybe a little more to it than that. Well, I knew that I had to be hungry. I knew I had to put everything into it. And so I spent most of the money I had on travel and things and whatever. And I knew I needed to be hungry, or I wasn't going to have to leave New York, really. Right. I didn't want to stay here and just work hard to have a nice life. I wanted to do something. And so I kind of just closed my eyes and went with it. And one of my best friends, Michelle Gerson, who's a huge supporter and one of the most loyal people, she's a great designer as well. She really encouraged me. She let me shadow her on projects, let me tag along with her, and really kind of gave me my a little bit of a foundation. But everything I really taught myself. I set a schedule for myself. I read every design book that I could afford. I did everything I could do to just every showroom in the D&D I visited. I went through every floor, saw what everyone did, opened accounts everywhere, learned everything, asked every question, and really made it my job to be, because I needed to be making an income within 2 months. And so
that's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, but I'm a good worker. I work really hard, and I knew I could. I believed in myself, and so, and coming from a background in real estate where I was dealing with, at the time we had sold the most expensive co-op ever sold in Manhattan's history. We were doing huge transactions, $30, $40, $50 million. That was $70 million, and so I was used to working with teams of attorneys, teams of accountants, teams of all of these kind of people. So I knew I could talk to clients. I knew I could sell myself. I needed to give myself the tools to actually be able to do the job. So I made it my job to learn that very quickly.
So was there a particular project that was the turning point that made you think, okay, I made the right decision? I'm in the right career.
I'll tell you, it's going to sound like the most craziest thing. So I was in, Michelle had referred me, somebody who reached out to her, very, very tiny, 2-bedroom rental apartment on the Upper West Side for a recent divorcee and her daughter, I think. Yeah, her daughter. And had a budget of, I want to say $5,000. That included me. That was all in. And it was really, and it was fast, and I had to figure it out. And I remember I had gone from having assistants and a driver and all this stuff to, I mean, I bought a bookshelf at West Elm, a floor model that was slightly damaged, but I knew I could fix with a Sharpie, and put it on the train, carried it myself on the train because I didn't have a budget to take an Uber or take a cab. And then I had tools myself. I put it together in her apartment because I knew how to do that. I figured it out. And I didn't have a budget to pay the super or the handyman to do it. So I was sitting on the floor. I'll never forget. I was sitting on the floor on this rug that we bought on overstock.com or whatever it was. And I was like, I didn't have a drill. My wrist was exhausted. Like the whole thing, I was just like, ugh. And then I just thought, this is fucking great. Pardon my French. I just thought, this is like the best thing ever. I'm so happy. I'm doing something. I'm creating something. This is it. And I was so happy in that moment. And that was my moment where I thought, okay, this is what I want to be doing. It took a while for it to be like, this actually has serious legs to be something bigger than I thought. But that was when I knew I'd made the right decision. That was a few months in.
You were in control of your own destiny. Well, you've created homes from Big Sky to Cabo, customized jets and players lounge. How do you stay grounded while designing for such a varied clients and locations?
I think it really comes down to how I was raised. I think it comes down to how I was raised, and I think it comes down to values. I value authenticity. I value, and being young in New York and growing up, there's so much temptation to want to be this or want to be like that or want to be like this person or whatever. But the older I get, the more I can really see the true value is being you're the best singular version of yourself. That is the most important thing that you can bring to the world. That gives you the keys to the kingdom to kind of do anything. True. And so for me, the folks that I get to work with, I'm very lucky because I love what I do, and it's not just a job. I really am able to do what I love with the people I love for the people that I love. And so the way I stay grounded is it's just every day really matters. Every decision, everything we do for a client really matters. Everyone is replaceable, myself starting with me, and so are clients. So are, and so every single thing is, you're only as good as your last interaction with that client or with that vendor or whoever. And so it all matters. It really does. And it's not a job for me. It's an obsession. I am obsessed with being as great as I can possibly be. That doesn't mean successful. That doesn't mean well-known. That means personally to do as good a work as I can possibly do, and as be a good a leader, as good a designer, as good a person that somebody brings into their private life. And, I really want to be the best that I can be there. So there's not really room to not be grounded in that. Do you know what I mean? For me, doing planes, we've done a few Bombardier Globals now and Global 7500s. And I know there is a mile-long list of people who would kill to be in that position and do a plane. So I don't take it for granted. I don't just think, this is my plane to do. Right. It could be gone like that. So every day is a fight to make sure the experience is the best, the jet is the best, the experience with all of the teams around us working on it is the best that it can be. And that's how I approach kind of everything that I do, with a relentless pursuit of just being better. I'm never going to be perfect, but I just want to be better and learn more. So there's not room to kind of not have your feet on the ground.
True. Well, it's good. It's good Midwest values. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of ingrained in you. If your design style were a city, which one would it be?
Oh my God. You asked me this question. I saw this thing. I don't know that, I can you have a ranch in Rome that also has like a suburb of New York City?
Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that.
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I don't have an aesthetic for clients. I always work with their individual aesthetics, and I don't ever want to have an identifiable look. But somebody told me the other day, I saw a bunch of like something that was published recently, and they were like, I could tell it was you. And I'm like, ugh, I don't love that. I'd rather it just look really amazing. So I don't know. I feel very blasphemous to say anything other than New York, because New York has been so good to me. But
it's a great place to be. Most unforgettable celebrity moment in a Torrey design space.
Well, the most unforgettable celebrity moment that I've had was with the chain smokers. I work with the guys, and that's not a secret. And they were just in the background writing songs on the piano, like recording stuff, and just like writing stuff and humming along, whatever it was, while I was putting books on shelves. And that turned into a song I heard on the radio like 6 months later. And I just, to be part of, like, I have my own creative process, but to see other people's creative processes, I just thought was so cool. Like, I thought that was, it's not a flashy thing. It's not like a exciting, but it was just very cool.
Well, talking about your creative process, you've said a living space should be a reflection of the owner's life, which is very true, I think, for any creative in this industry. What's your process for uncovering those personal details and translating them into the design for them and their personality and lifestyle? Well,
it's interesting because if it's somebody that I haven't worked with before, you have to build trust. That is how it starts. And it's not an easy path. I'm pretty good at it, but it's not an easy path to build. And especially if they've had maybe not a great experience before, or, whatever it may be. So, what I need to know from them is, what side of the bed do you sleep on? What happens when you wake up after you've used the restroom? Do you go have coffee? Do you read the news? What, that level of detail throughout their day? What happens when you come home? Do you have kids? Do you have a chef? Are you kosher? Or do you have catered events? Do you have live-in help? What does all of this look like? And how do you flow through your day? But people won't tell you that until they trust you. True. And so it really does start with trust, and starts with building that trust. And so in my experience, the way that you build trust is by starting with clear financials, and starting with getting that kind of annoying conversation that no one wants to talk about, hitting it right on the head, and really being very clear. This is who I am. This is how I build. This is what you can expect. This is how it works. This is razor sharp, crystal clear finances. Then getting into, now let's talk about, that's all set. Now let's talk about the fun stuff. And by that time, they know your intention. They know what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be spending. They've been referred to me usually by somebody I've worked with before. So they know what to expect in terms of timing and staying within budget. And then there's enough trust that they can start to open up to me about their personal life. Because it is, I mean, obviously everyone who works for me is under an NDA. We NDA all of our vendors. We operate very discreetly, unless it's a public figure that's talked about us before, like I just said. But otherwise, you put all these kind of flag posts up about why you can be trusted.
True.
And it really matters, and you can't break that trust. So that it starts with trust, getting to learn the details of how they live their lives and what they want from their home. I never talk about what they want it to look like. That's so far down the line. It's what they want their home to feel like. What is the feeling that they get when they walk in at the end of the day? What do they want it to feel like? Do they want to be excited by their home? Do they want to just relax? Do they want. There's a lot of different feelings, and people can really articulate that a lot better than they can say, I want a brown sofa that has a chrome side table.
Right. Or bring a picture. I want this.
Yeah. So it's really the feeling.
Yeah. And you hit it on the point. It's a trust factor too, because it's a very intimate industry. You get to know people in depth. Sometimes they're a therapist, they're a counselor. You get to know things about them that could surprise you, maybe not. So yeah, it's definitely built on trust. Well, your work is so curated, but it looks so effortless, like magic. What's the key in making these intricate spaces, layered design, look and feel natural? How do you go through that process? What's your magic?
It's all. Honestly, I wish I had magic. It's all in my imagination. It's all in my head. And you can ask the people that work for me. I will sit. I didn't realize I talked with my eyes closed a lot, but apparently I do. And I just will see. I have a very vivid imagination. I'll just envision a space. Like, you come in, what do you do? How does it feel? What does the textures look and feel like? And I can really envision it. I've worked very hard to have that be a tool in my tool bag. And so, but that also translates to the way the whole room comes together is with objects and styling and books and anything like that. It has to tell a story about who lives there. It's really important that it's an interesting and compelling story, that it's not just whatever. So if it's like luxury cars, I'm not buying that book. That's not a book that I'm sourcing for a client. I want something that says something interesting. So if they're into cars, let's go. Like, I dive into, out of print books all the time to see kind of what's not expected. That if somebody walks up to a bookshelf or walks up, they're like, oh, that's interesting. And, when we do full bookshelves, I really do want it to tell a story of somebody's life, that somebody could walk up to that bookshelf and be like, this person has a lot of interest. This is very personal to them. These objects speak to them for what they're not just an expensive vase just to be an expensive vase, because who cares? There's nothing interesting about that to me, So, so that's kind of where I start.
So one of the things that you're known for, amongst the many things in your design aesthetic, is attention to scale and proportion. How do you train or trust your eye when your eyes are closed, when playing with spatial tension in a room?
These questions are just outrageously good.
I won't make you cry. I'm not Oprah.
No, hurry. That's fine. I might, you never know. I actually, when you were going to say that about the proportion, again, this is all stuff that I had to teach myself. And so I felt like I had a pretty good feeling for space, but thinking back to my childhood bedroom, the floors were torn to shreds because I'd moved my furniture so much. And the walls in the bedroom were covered in this grass cloth wall covering. I had rehung things on my walls so many times. It was literally, the wallpaper was like coming because it was all crumbs behind.
Right.
So I've just really played a lot. And the other thing that kind of goes back to your previous question is, like, when you're layering things, thinking a scale thing or whatever, I cannot tell you how many thousands of miles I've probably walked in this career, because I would do a shelf and step back, and then do a shelf and step back, but then step to a different angle, or imagine, okay, the principal homeowner's coming into the room. What does this say to them? And then I might change something. But then I'm like, okay, a guest is coming to the room. What does this say to them? And then I might change something. I really try to craft an entire narrative for the whole space. And that definitely becomes a little heavy sometimes for me, because I have a hard time letting go of something until it's exactly perfect for me, and hope the client loves it, and then have to let it go. But yeah, I don't know. With this, I will say the one book that taught me the most of any book that I read was Bunny Williams. She has it's not The Business of Home, but it's a big brown book that Bunny Williams published. Right. And, she just gives it all away in it. Like, she tells you how to be a designer, and you start from the ground up. You do the rugs, the floor first, then the rug, because it's easy to match furniture to a rug. It's impossible to match a whole room to a rug. I wouldn't know that. Right. But though she gives key tenets about space, about scale, about things like that just in that one book that I still reference to myself all the time. And so it was there. She taught it. We have different aesthetics, but it's all the same thing, you know? And so, I would say it started with bunning.
She definitely has a sense of a master class in that book. You know, it's almost like the Julia Child of French cooking. It gives all the secrets and how to do it, and easy peasy and on your way.
Yeah, exactly. So I've mentioned to her many times that she taught me all of this stuff, and she's like, "That's nice."
Did she send you a bill?
That's nice. No, we're on a committee for the Keeps Bay presidents there, and so I see her all the time. But she's like, "That's nice." I don't think she remembers.
Well, what's the biggest myth or design myth you think people get wrong about space, size, and proportion?
I think I think this has probably been addressed so many times, but you know, dark colors in small rooms, small art in small rooms, things like this. Like if you paint a room dark, your eye doesn't stop at black. Your eye doesn't stop at a dark color. Your eye kind of goes through it. Whereas white, your eye stops. It's reflective. Whereas as a darker color kind of absorbs light, it's the same effect when you look at something. So when you go into, my first studio apartment in New York was painted deep chocolate brown, and it felt big. When I left and had to paint it white, it felt like a closet. It was crazy. It was so tiny. So things like that, putting big art in small rooms, big light fixtures in small rooms. I just think sometimes when you go against what the rule is, you have a much more impactful result. And, you know, it just becomes a more meaningful, memorable space. So,
what design rule do you like to break?
Give me a few and I'll tell you how broken.
Okay. Now I'll go to another question. Dream project location.
Well, I'll tell you a design rule. Sorry.
Okay.
One thing that makes me nuts, which as I go through my projects, I can see a lot. It just really kind of shrinking in the images. Is I hate leaving a ceiling just white. It now just really bothers me. I will usually now carry the paint color up and over, or I'll do something. I don't mind if it's a white ceiling with trim molding, like a color and then molding and then white. But to just have like grass cloth wall covering dye into a corner that then it turns to white, it just feels like such a laziness to me personally. And so that's something that really I can't not like. That's a kind of a white ceiling thing. I have to address it. Sorry. So your next question was?
Dream project location.
On the water, a big ass boat. That's what I want to do next.
Anywhere in particular?
Well, I would have it built at Lursen or Fedship, which is in the Netherlands, and then I would have it brought to Europe and then probably the United States, Europe for install. But I've done all my research. I'm ready to go.
I think so.
I am ready to go. I've done the planes to go to the boat. I would like to do I want to do the boat, and I want to do all the toys. I want to do the helicopter. I want to work with, there's this very special team at Hermes that I've worked with on a few things, but they'll also outfit helicopters because why not? Right. And they're so easy to work with. They're just the best. And so like, I would love to do that. I would love to do all of these things, and that's coming. There's already conversations with different folks around that, but that's what I would like to do next. What's
one design era you find yourself constantly drawn to?
Art Deco. I don't know why. I feel like there's something so glamorous about it and so sexy. Particularly kind of French Deco, all like Ducré Lafond, like just there's just something about it. It just feels elegant when combining like the lacquer and the woods and the brass and the parchment that you're like it's just like so chic. I feel underdressed talking about it. I feel like I should be in a suit. with a cigarette, with like gorgeous glasses, and just be like, like it's a feeling that it gives me. It's not so much even aesthetic. It's just like, I just love it. So
I think it was an era that people, they took time in their appearance and crafting who they were. It was very visually in a lot of ways. I get it.
Yeah.
What's your design indulgence? Something you just love adding when the projects allow or budget allows?
Two things. I can't stop with books. That's my own indulgence. Like I can't even tell you how many books I have. It's like relentless. I'm very thirsty for knowledge, so I kind of buy everything. My favorite store is like a vintage, out of print, architecture, art, design bookstore. It's a thing. So I love bringing kind of vintage, out of print books that usually have a much higher price point. I love bringing that into a project because and I love bringing in. There's a store I work with, Antiques Modern, that's in Chelsea, a gallery that sells small kind of collectible, things that were made in 1970. They made 4 of them, Hermes, for whatever, like a little ashtray, whatever it is. But bringing those things into a project, and it gives it such patina, such age, such quality. It implies a much bigger life and a much bigger lived life than just a new accessory. So I love doing that. Those all come with a price tag. And then secondary to that, I always work with art in a pretty significant way. Whether it's me working with a client in galleries or whether I'm working with a art advisor. And there's one that I work with very primarily, Gay Aspen. And we do art all over the world for clients together. So,
well, part of being a creative is sometimes, licensing agreements or collaborations and collectively. And you've worked with Stark Carpets, which was amazing in your collection there. What's your approach to product collaborations, and what does it mean to feel like a Torrey piece? What's the essence?
It's a great question. I mean, it's because it's so tough. Because that's a great question, because with projects, I never want to be limited to. I want to have the world and kind of be able to make each project its own. Ideally, sometimes things are just so great they're universal. Like there's a rug I've used 1 million times that Francois Coutreau designed for Edward Fields. It's gorgeous. It's like works everywhere. It's beautifully made. You sometimes can't do better than that,
Right.
But for me, with the project with Stark was so wonderful. That happened after the Kips Bay show house in 2018. And I worked with Chad Stark, who's wonderful, Chad and Ashley. And I love working with Stark. They're really wonderful and easy to work with. With that project, or those projects, there were a few rugs that I still use to this day. You'll see in quite a few bedrooms. I have one in my bedroom right now, actually. But for me, it has to be. I don't know. I love the rugs I designed with Stark. I haven't done many other product lines with vendors subsequently. But I would love to get more into that. I design custom things all the time. We do custom rugs, custom furniture, custom case goods, custom wall coverings, custom fabrics all the time for projects, custom dinnerware. But I haven't turned those into products yet because they're so specific for the client. I can't, they don't want to see their rug on the shelf somewhere that I made for them.
It's like, that was mine.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, because the other thing is, what I do for clients is very different than what I do for myself in terms of the visual aesthetic. So,
well, talking about Kips Bay, your after party room at the Kips Bay Decorated Show House became a major talking point. What did that project mean for you and your brand and the creative freedom that allowed you to create that?
I mean, that changed everything. The Kips Bay Decorator Show House cannot be underplayed. It cannot. It is what you get out of it, what you put into it, for sure. Like any opportunity, it's not going to do it for you, but if you put in the work, it can really move the needle. And for me, I've talked about this a lot in the book and in a couple other places. Janie Drake called me. The house was already decided. A designer pulled out. He called me, asked if I wanted to take a shot at a show house. I was like, well, I had a ton of stuff going on at the time, a lot of deadlines. This is 5 years into my business in 2018. And, it was just funny. It was like, I was kind of flabbergasted. And I was like he hadn't even told me what it was yet. I was like, and he was like, well, it's for Kips Bay. And I just shut up because I was shocked. That's like that Kips Bay is the most prestigious show house in the world. Correct. And it is Kips Bay, New York. And it is the last stop on the train of show houses. So to be that be my first show house had never even entered my mind. Mm-hmm. And when he said that, then I like totally freaked out. And he was like, well, if this isn't your year, it's okay. I'm sure there will be other years. No way. I know. And I literally said, no.
Pass it up.
I know. I'm just I'm figuring it out in my head. I'm sorry that came out of my mouth. I am 100% in. I will figure it out. When do I start? And he said, today. So I got in a car, went up, down, and oh my God, it was just really wild. I had to close my eyes and just do it. And I will say about halfway through, just to kind of get to the point of the question, about halfway through, I was walking through the house, and it was heavy hitters, Bunny, Juan Montoya, Jamie Drake, David Netto. It just went on and on and on of names. It was a really heavy house, and like me, and Wesley Moon, and then it just was. I walked into Jamie's room, and he had sent fabric to India to be hand embroidered to be upholstered onto his wall, and it had just come back and was going up. And I just thought, oh Jesus, okay, well, because I'd been on like a budget, right? And
right.
I just closed my eyes. I spent every single penny I had. I maxed out every credit card that I had. I just thought I have to just go all the way, or it's just a miss. Right. And I did. And I regret nothing. It was outrageously successful for me. Everything aligned. It changed everything about my business. It didn't bring me a client, like that doesn't happen, but it made working really easy in the industry. Everyone kind of that industry awareness and respect. It made, if I picked up the phone to call a vendor, it made it very easy to work.
Right.
And so, I don't know. It was the most wonderful, wonderful thing.
Everyone knew who you were.
It really changed. It changed the trajectory of my business. It accelerated it. I can't imagine what my business would be like today without having done Kips Bay at that point in my career. It's crazy.
Are you going to do another one?
Of course. I'm a vice chair of the Kips Bay President's Center. Mm-hmm. So I help with organize that for the past 4 or 5 years, and which is great. And with the show house, we'll see when the timing works. But yeah, I have ideas of things that I would love to do that I've been thinking that it randomly just recently started popping into my head. I was like, that could be fun. So we'll see. But yeah.
Well, your own apartment was featured in AD. How did that process differ from designing for clients? And were you your own tough critic?
I never thought that apartment, that was a 1-bedroom rental apartment. I never thought that would be an Architectural Digest, and ever. It was never the point. And that was truly what I do for myself. I like living with things and stuff, but it's not just like filler. Every piece in that apartment meant something. And so I have most of it. Means something, is curated. I tried to be a minimalist. I can't. I look at these homes that are just like, a table and like a chair. I'm like, oh, looks so relaxing. And I can't. I just can't. I started that way in that was 2 apartments ago, what you're talking about, 2 homes ago. My most recent one, I started that way, and it was just like, no, it's not me. I can't. Not in New York. So, it does differ from, I think it differs from a lot of projects. There are a few projects that are in that vein. There's one I did in NoHo for a great friend called Anthony Borowski, that was an Architectural Digest. The aesthetic of that his aesthetic and my aesthetic aligns pretty well. And we've also been great friends for 15 years. So, and there was another project that was published late last year in Architectural Digest in Bel Air. That's for a very good friend of mine. And he is in my aesthetics also align. So there are things out there that are kind of aligned with mine, but the bulk of what I do is very different. And I want it to be different. I want it to be more to the client, you know?
Well, talking about publication, your new monograph, Private Spaces, is such a beautiful personal body of work. What made now the right time to tell this story? And what was your inspiration of actually putting this together?
Well, I didn't think this was the right time. So my story,
someone else did. Maybe it was just in the stars.
But my very dear friend and who I work with on all art stuff and most editorial stuff, Gay Gassman, she wrote all the articles we were just talking about. She said it was time. It's been 10 years, coming on 10 years. It's time. You have enough projects under your belt, and I photographed most of them at that point, and so I started to get some good editorial coverage. And she just said, "It's time. We need to start working on this." And she helped me put the team together. The editor was this great woman, Catherine Bonifaci from Paris. She has edited pretty amazing books. She packaged and put them together. Joseph Durand, Pierre Jovanovich, Charles Zana, kind of the best of the best to come out recently. She's had a hand in, and really wonderful to work with. And then I worked with. I felt strongly that it needed to be an object. I didn't want it to just be a book with a picture on the cover. For multiple reasons, but the primary one is I did not want to piss off all of my clients who weren't on the cover. Right. And so, you know, the most important thing is not my book. It's the most important thing is the client relationship. So, I had some things I really felt strongly about, you know, like the edge printing, making it an object from all angles. I felt really strong about that.
Love it.
And, you know, I sized it to be super universal size to style coffee tables with. I really did a lot of research into all of that stuff. And so that was important to me. And then, you know, working with, so the team that designed it, Atelier Dekova, they designed all the Donald Judd books, a bunch of stuff for the David Zwirner Gallery, for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, their annual thing. So they were so great to work with. Everyone on the team was just like the best. It's the best to work with. And really, I don't think I could have assembled a better team, frankly. And I'm just so proud of kind of where we ended up.
Well, it's a beautiful book cover. I mean, it's striking with that red, that cranberry reddish color.
The Marlboro red. It looks very cranberry in this picture, but yeah. And the fun fact, I was going to be Torrey. They needed a title. I thought Private Spaces is really kind of what it is, because of private spaces. Yeah. This implies a private space. But then I knew I wanted to have edge printing around, because there's a few of the other books that I love have edge printing. When they're on a coffee table, it says something from all angles.
Yeah.
And we laid it out with Dekova, and it said Great American Design. I didn't think they'd go for that. But Rizzoli loved it, and I thought, well, there we go.
Okay, there you go. He did it.
So, yeah.
Well, what do you hope readers and future clients take away from the book about your design philosophy?
You know, I hope they just take away that if you approach things with honesty and curiosity and integrity, you can really do anything. And you can create a really personal space that feels very thoughtful, very curated, but still very personal. Like you're not living in a cold antiseptic room.
Right,
you can make anything, even if it's there's a project in Cabo that's very, very minimal, but you know, the living room is 45 feet long and has 3 pieces of furniture in it, but it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't look that way. It just feels very textured and layered and all this. And so, and you got very personal to that client, because that's how they like to live. So yeah, I hope they take from it that. I hope they take from the chapter, the project introductions, a really deep respect for the client. I think that really is the start and end of everything as it relates to me. Without the client is king. Without the client, I don't exist. And I don't, it doesn't matter how creative I am or whatever. If I can't get a project done, I don't have a client. And so that's it. So, really deferring to the client, being grateful that they've allowed me to come into their lives, their families' lives to do this work. I think gratitude, curiosity, integrity, honesty. I hope that's what people take from it.
When you think about your legacy, what kind of impact do you hope Torrey has had on the design world?
I would say what I said before, just really, really just being able to have fun with design, but treat it very serious. Because, this is people, these are people's private homes. This is where I know I have very deep, specific memories of different rooms in my grandparents' homes, different places, of objects on tables, of different things that I created memories around as a little kid. So if we're designing rooms that these little kids are making those core memories around, that has a weight to it and an importance to it. It's not just a job. You have a responsibility to really treat this with respect and with kindness and with thoughtfulness. And really, it's not just a job. And so for me, I hope they take that away, but that's kind of my feeling. So
being a creative, when you walk into a blank space, what's the first thing you instantly look for?
A sledgehammer, so I can get it.
Some paint?
No, okay, I'm kidding. I have to, again, because I didn't start with like kind of this background of stuff. I really go by feel, and I have to think about how a space would flow, about how a space, you'd walk through a space. I really have to sit in it, see where the light comes from, see where the, kind of the passageways are, and think about what would make sense there. And it doesn't always happen for someone there. My biggest favorite thing is a big ass roll of blue tape. And you can kind of create, a whole room out of blue tape on the floor and lock it in. And then then you're like, oh, wow, this actually really works, Yeah. So, I guess I look for a roll of blue tape and to be alone. I don't like an audience with that. I need to just do it on my own.
So do you allow your clients to participate in installation or review or come into the space, or you just like to be completely alone during that time as well?
I mean, ideally, we're able to kind of just do our stuff because as you well know, I don't need to worry about a tiny scratch on a wood floor if it's going to be covered by 14 feet of rug in every direction.
Right.
That's not something to focus on and bring in a whole crew to fix, and it will never be uncovered. We're not hiding it ever, but that's not like, there are little things like that where it's like, I don't need to maybe focus on that, but it's their home and it's their money and it's their hard-earned money. And so if they want to be there and sit on a chair and watch me install a bookcase, I'm happy for them to do so. Well, maybe not happy for them to do so if they're not helping. But yeah, I think it's very presumptuous to tell a private homeowner that they can't be there while you're installing. I think everyone that I work with knows they can be wherever they want to be. And so then they don't feel that pressure. And so they're like, just do your thing. Do your thing. We'll trust you. We'll see it when it's done.
What's the most unexpected design request you've received, and how did you answer the challenge?
I think the most unexpected to date was, it was new for me. Now I've done it a lot, was a cat closet, where you convert a closet to a kitty litter box with
Really? Okay.
External ventilation, fans, the whole thing. I've done that quite a few times now. And that's probably that would, now it's like old hat, but at the time it was that and integrating ballistic concrete and ballistic paneling into, we'd done ballistic glass before, but we'd never done integrated ballistic paneling in the walls and ballistic concrete and the subfloors and but you work with good vendors, everything's possible.
Yeah, true. I've never been asked to do a kitty closet.
They're really cute. You have a lot of fun with the little door. So cute. You can have a lot of fun with the door. And then they go in, there's a little light. You did a really funny, went on Etsy and bought some ridiculous sconce that no one will ever see. It's like a cat. It's so
I'm a dog person. Well, anyway.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah. Well, how do you balance longevity and trend in your work? Are there design risks you intentionally do to make a space feel fresh and modern?
I try to think of spaces like books will kind of how you style coffee tables, whatever, that will change. Maybe you change your art, maybe you change stuff, but it's easy to reupholster a chair. It's easy to change a throw blanket or a pillow. But I do try to think of spaces in a 10 to 20 year kind of window. I would hope that they look just as fresh and great in 10 years as they do the day we leave. And if it's a client that's wanting something that looks a little current, I hope that I'm able to give it elements that are timeless, that will let it stand the test of time and not kind of jump out of the page of being, oh, that was done in 2021 or whatever. But that is something that, because that to me, this is coming from real estate, if you design something that's kind of timeless and looks great always and is easy to maintain, you're also advertising to every single person that walks in that house. So I don't want somebody to come into a place in 10 years and be like, oh, wow, okay, this was done like a long time ago. I want them to come in and be like, wow, this place is sick. They just finished? No, it's 10 years old. No way. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Longevity, timelessness. Yeah. Well, I think which kind of goes back to the Art Deco. It does have a timeless appeal to it,
Yeah, for sure.
It never kind of really goes out of style. Since you have such a knack and natural talent of layering, when do you know a room is done? When do you step away and it's like, okay, I'm finished?
When it makes me excited to walk in and look at it and I don't want to leave. When I don't want to leave, and I'm like, I just sit and I'm like, oh, like everything clicks and there's like a click in my brain. That's when I feel it.
When it's had its final touch, its final walkthrough,
I don't know why I like people. It's just like, I might have moved a bowl on the coffee table 487 times, and for no reason, but just to get it exactly perfect for me and make sure it works in all angles, make sure that when the housekeeper moves in, it's still good, whatever it is. But once everything kind of clicks, the art is up, everything is done, and I've sat with it and I don't want to leave. When I don't want to leave, I just want to sit and enjoy the room. That's when I know it's done.
So what's next for you? Any dream collaborations, new markets, creative explorations you're excited about? Book number 2?
We've already started on developing for 2 and 3. I think there was a couple different things we're working on there. But I'm working on something with the widower of this artist behind me. These Robert Laughlin's, working on something with him to do kind of a retrospective kind of thing. So a lot more kind of books and editorial, but in terms of projects, I mean, I would really love to, like I said, get into larger boats. Love to continue doing, I've been lucky that my clients have kind of taken me all over the world. And so we've done projects kind of everywhere, and it's really with wonderful people, and that's been exciting. I think I've said this before to my team a lot. People are designing spaceships right now. Somebody's designing the interiors.
Yeah.
Someone's designing the hangars. Someone's designing the waiting room. Why not us? Somebody has to be. So, that's the future. Why not? So that's where I'd like to go.
Kips Bay, New York, in the sky.
I don't need to be on the spaceship. I'm good without that, but I'd like to do everything around it.
Well, with such a global portfolio, how do you approach location-specific design? Do you adapt to the culture and landscape, or do you bring your signature lens with subtle regional inflection and the client's personality, place, and time?
It depends on the client. It depends on what's outside the windows. It depends on how big the windows are. We did a project in London for a client that had a very specific, very clean aesthetic that I love, that Dave taught me a lot about color and a lot about kind of everything. But that apartment could have been in a lot of places because it didn't have big sweeping views. It didn't have views of whatever. So it could have kind of had any aesthetic. Whereas the home in Cabo, you're in Cabo, you're by the sea, you're not going to hide that. You don't want to hide that. There's a palm tree out your door. So I always want to try to make places feel, most of the clients that we work with, they don't want to go into the same home around the world. They want to go into and feel very specific in that location and make memories there that are very specific to that, and then go to the next place and have that be specific. They don't want the same flatware, the same dinnerware. Everything needs to be its individual place to create these different memories. And so I really like that. As much as we can shop local artisans, local potters, local whatever, I really do try to do that as much as the client will let me.
Tell us a little bit about some of the current projects you're working on.
We have a huge project in Colorado. It's been a 4-year project right now that's getting ready to wrap up. We have a pretty massive project in combining 2 homes in Bridgehampton with a bridge that's kind of unprecedented, never been done before, right on the ocean. So that's wrapping up in a couple of weeks, actually. So that's exciting. Let's see, a couple of projects in LA, new projects in Connecticut, big projects in Cambridge and Boston, very cool projects in Ireland that's going to incorporate an animal sanctuary, and it's right on kind of the sea cliff. So that's exciting. I just kind of bouncing all over the place right now, but I love that, and I love it, and I really do get to work with the most wonderful people, and from my team to our vendors to the clients, who many of whom are very good friends of mine. I'm very good at changing the hats. We're having a work talk, we're having a friend talk, and and that's on me. I have to make, that's my responsibility to make. If something's going rough and they need to have a rough talk, they need to not feel weird about having that with me, and I'm really good at that. So, kind of everywhere.
Juggling.
Nothing right now in New York City. We're based here, but I don't actually work in New York City that often, which is kind of funny.
So what drives, inspires, and motivates Andrew Torrey?
Like we said at the beginning of the call, just voracious curiosity and really, really this kind of obsessive need to just be a better version of myself, to just be the best version that I can be every day. And it's kind of exhausting, frankly. And, but it just is who I am. It's how I was raised. It's just in my blood that I just want to learn everything that I can. And I want to be as good as I can be. I'm never going to be the best. I'm never going to be perfect, but I want to be as great as I can personally be for me.
So how do you turn off and relax? What do you do?
It's very hard for me. It's very hard for me. It sounds so stupid because it's like, oh, you can't relax, boo-hoo. Well, the thing is, it's not that I can't relax. I don't want to relax. I want to work. I love being in the office. I love going to projects. I just love doing the work.
I get that.
And so for me to, like, I don't want to get away. I want to stay here. And so it's hard for me going on vacation. It's really, really hard, but I've been getting better at it. I actually have been doing something called like structured days off, where I have a very strict schedule on my days off. I read for 2 hours. I go to the gym. I do this, whatever. And then by the end of the day, I feel totally fulfilled and relaxed and great. Because if I don't structure my days off, I don't know what to do. And so I'll sit there and like scroll, read the news, look at the wall, look at some art, read a book, like scroll. And by the end of the day, I've done nothing.
Right.
And I don't feel better for it. Whereas if I've structured my day off, I get so much done that like actually does make me feel better. So yeah.
If you could give your younger self just starting out in design, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just always be honest. Always be honest. I don't need that advice because that's how I've always been, but always be honest. Something breaks, tell the client. If you made a mistake in accounting, tell the client, fix it, pay for it, but tell them. Don't ever hide anything from anyone. It's the easiest thing to do is to be just really, really, really brutally honest across the board. And then you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to remember anything. It's just, it's just the best. And I can't tell you how that is literally the easiest path to go. And I hear every day, I hear stories about people that choose the harder path.
Right.
And I, like, why would you want to take that on? So
what are you most surprised about learning about yourself during this journey that you've taken?
Oh my God. Well, back when I had a different career and I worked in real estate or I worked in stuff, I could relax all day. I could sleep till 1. I totally could be like a normal person. But when I started this business and saw where it could go, became excited by it, became hungry for it. And as the years have gone on, I just have become more and more and more obsessed with what I do and in love with what I do. I never would have dreamt that I would be working as hard as I do 365 days a year, ever, and enjoying and loving every minute of it. I never would have dreamt that, ever. And it's certainly how I was raised. My parents were very hard, but I didn't think that was in me. I thought I could like do this and have a nice life, and I do the whatever. I never thought I would become obsessed with a career like this. And so that did sort of surprise me a little bit. And I can't imagine anything else. And it was like, what are you going to do when you retire? It was like, be dead.
maybe sleep.
Like actually be dead, like in the ground. There is no retire. Are you kidding? So yeah, I don't know. That's definitely kind of surprised myself.
Well, that shows a true passion and talent, natural talent that you have for this industry. That it's not work; it's your love. Well, Andrew, any final words for listeners who are dreaming about creating their own private sanctuary?
Well, I would say for anyone who's thinking about being a designer, it's just the best career. It's the most amazing. It's the most supportive community. I have had just a wonderful time being a designer, and certainly doing it in New York City. There is room for everybody at all levels of this industry, and you just go for it. It's just the best. Even if it's just working for another designer, just do it. It's just great. And for somebody thinking about, creating their own home, just make sure it's really personal to you. Don't be shy of your interests. You can make your interests look really great and really gorgeous and glamorous in a fun way. Don't have a designer tell you that, no, we can't use that that plate, because it's hideous. If you love it, a good designer will figure it out, and they'll be figured out and make it into something that they're proud of. So that's what I would say. Stick to your guns.
Well, you have the ability and talent to make personal spaces feel cinematic, and nothing short of inspiring. So thank you for your time today, Andrew. It's been a pleasure to have you on our show and to have this time to spend with you.
Oh my gosh, Greg, this has been so awesome. And you definitely get like 10s across the board for your questions. Like, who the heck? Like, what the heck? I wouldn't even ask myself these questions. These are amazing. Seriously. Really thoughtful, specific, nuanced, researched questions. I'm very impressed.
I do my homework.
Yes.
Well, when you're so talented, you have to. So you're inspiring, and thank you for having the time to take today to be on the show.
Oh, you're the best. I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll chat soon.
All right.
For our listeners, make sure to grab a copy of Private Space's Great American Design by Rizzoli and follow Andrew's work at Torrey. From beautifully edited interiors to deeply personal storytelling, his spaces remind us that design is much more than just aesthetics. It's about emotion, energy, and experience. That's it for this episode of Beyond the Design. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share with your fellow design lovers. Until next time, keep creating spaces that reflect your story and elevate your spirit.
Hi, you're listening to a Pod for Good Media Network podcast. We are a network that provides podcasting production services and a supportive community in which podcasters can thrive. If you're a podcaster local in the Tulsa area, we would love to have your show on the network. If you are interested in starting one, we would love to help you get started. Find us online at podforgoodmedia.com and fill out our Pod With Us form. Happy podcasting.